Hello everyone. So we'll see what instance variables are. So by definition, um, instance variables are declared inside the class but outside the methods. So this is a very important point, that instance variables are defined outside the methods and inside the class, and each object gets its own copy. So whenever you create an object which is like an instance of your class, which is like a copy of your class, then each of this object will get a own copy of the instance variable. We will see what it means. Okay, now stored in the heap memory, unlike your local variables which were stored in the stack memory, this is stored in your heap memory. So you could see it here, right? So if you take this particular example, the data holder object, this is your heap. So all your instance variables are created inside your heap area. Okay, so yeah, now these are created. Now when are they created? So these are created when the object is created. And when is the object created in Java? Whenever you use the keyword called new. Whenever you use the keyword new to instantiate any class, which means create any object, that is when the object is created. And this instance variable is also created when the object is created. And when is it destroyed? It is destroyed when the object is destroyed. Why is it so? Because this particular variable, if you see the second point, each object gets its own copy of instance variable. So whenever the object is created, the instance variable is created, and whenever the object is destroyed, the instance variable is also destroyed along with the object. I hope it's clear now. Accessible via object reference. Okay, so which means that how can you access an instance variable, since since an instance variable is tightly coupled to an object, so you could actually use or access the instance variable using the object reference or the getters and setters. Generally you can use getters and setter methods to get the reference of the object, and then you can use the object reference to actually access the instance variable. We will discuss what are getters and setters in the next upcoming tutorials. So this can instance variables can have access modifiers. What are access modifiers? Private, public, protected, all these are access modifiers. So the local variables, they do not support any access modifiers. If you put any access modifier to your local variable, it will give you an error. Okay, but for instance variables you can write public, private, all these access modifiers. Okay, and define and they have default values assigned, which means for local variables you can't add any default values, whereas for instance variables you can add the JVM by default will assign default values. You don't have to worry about that. You will not get any error. Now let's see some examples. Okay, now let's go to this example. So here the class is instance variable demo. Okay, this is my class and it has display method and main method. Okay, I can just close these two methods. Okay, this is the whole code where I have one method and again another method main. The variables which are declared inside your class and outside your methods, these are instance variables. Currently I have not written any access modifiers, but you can add them. For example, I am just adding a private keyword, or you could say private access modifier, to my instance variables. Okay, it's perfectly fine. The reason why I'm adding this private keyword to my instance variables is you will know this in the encapsulation lecture. Generally, it is a best practice to use a private access modifier to your instance variables, and then use getters and setters, getter methods and setter methods, in order to access this instance variables. We will see them in the upcoming tutorials. Now, so these are my instance variables. For now I'm just keeping them as private. Okay, even without private also it's fine. It's not necessary to have access modifiers, but it is generally recommended to have access modifiers for your instance variables. Okay, otherwise you will have the default access modifier if you don't do anything. Okay, so Yeah, so you have this display method. What is this display method doing? We are just trying to print the name. We're trying to access the um, instance variable directly here. Okay, and we are just trying to print the name, employee, age, and everything. Okay, and after that, if you see down, so here, if you see, so we are trying to create the object called emp1 employee1, and we are trying to create one more object called employee2 of this particular class. So each of this particular object that we have created so far, right? Let me close this. So each of this object that we have created so far will have its own copy of these three variables, right? As we discussed. So employee 1 will have age, name, employee ID. Employee 2 will have this same, right? Same thing. So currently, let's in this code we are trying to print the employee 1 display uh, to see what employee 1 has, the name, age, and employee ID. Okay, and then after that, so basically employee 1 is basically with the default values because we have not assigned anything, and after that we are trying to assign the name, age, and employee boolean, whether he is employed or not, true or false. Basically we are trying to set these values in the object, and also we are setting the values for employee 2. Okay, and then we are trying to print these two objects, object 1, object 2. That's it. That is the code, and let me now run the code. Okay, the code is ran. Okay, now just see the output. Before doing anything, okay, before doing anything, we were simply calling the object, right? So we were just simply calling the display name, right? Display method, sorry. See, we are just simply calling this display method without even setting anything. If you see, we just created in line number 14, this entire line, we have just created the object, and here we are just calling it. That's why default value for name is null because it's a string type. Default value for string is null. Default value for uh, integer data type is 0, and for boolean it is false. Employees boolean, so it is false. After this, go down. If you see this, we are trying to set the employee 1 as name as Sam, his age is 26, and we are saying that he is employed. So that's what object 1 is there. If you see the object 2, John 30 and false, right? You could see the same thing, John 30 and false. You are getting this because of these two print statements. Here you are trying to print the object 1, and then here you are trying to print the object 2. So I hope you understood what are the instance variables. They are the variables which are declared inside your class and outside your methods, and these are tightly coupled to your objects. That's it for this.